Lakers fans, I want you to hear something very specific before I tell you what happened, because the contradiction is the entire point. On July 1st, Sam Amick, one of the most connected reporters in this league, went on Sacktown Sports and said directly, quoting the exact sentiment reported, that the Domantas-Sabonis situation felt like it was going back towards the, very well might not be going anywhere kind of status. That was the story for the last 5 weeks. After months of heavy trade rumors involving Charlotte, Toronto, Chicago, and Phoenix, the consensus had genuinely shifted towards Sabonis simply staying in Sacramento. That was the widely accepted narrative, and at 1:17 this afternoon, on a live NBA Today segment, Shams Charania walked onto the desk and told the entire basketball world that the narrative everyone had settled into was about to become obsolete. Domantas Sabonis has been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. Before you scroll off, I'm telling you right now, by the end of this video, I'm gonna tell you the specific medical detail Shams provided that explains exactly why this deal could happen now, when it genuinely couldn't happen at the trade deadline in February. I'm also gonna tell you what Adam Schefter posted from his personal account 12 minutes later, a reaction connecting this deal to a very specific football parallel that made this story trend well beyond basketball circles. Stay with me. Do not click off. Here's how it went down. Malika Andrews is deep into a Summer League recap segment when her earpiece clearly detonates with real urgency. She stops mid-sentence. "We have to go to Shams. This is significant. Please stand by." And they cut. Shams delivers, and this is the direct transcript. I want to explain why this is happening now in August, rather than during the multiple windows this deal could theoretically have happened earlier. My understanding is that the biggest obstacle to a Sabonis trade all along wasn't interest. Several teams were genuinely interested throughout the season. It was the medical uncertainty around his left knee following the February meniscus surgery. Sacramento's own medical staff, according to sources, only fully cleared him for a return to full basketball activity in the last 2 weeks. And once that clearance came through, acquiring teams finally had the complete medical picture they needed to move forward with confidence. Rob Pelinka, who had reportedly stayed in contact with Sacramento's front office throughout the offseason, specifically waiting for that exact clearance, moved immediately once it happened. This deal is agreed to in principle. It sends draft compensation and matching salary to Sacramento. This is real, and the timing makes complete sense once you understand what everyone was actually waiting for. Read that back. Once that clearance came through, acquiring teams finally had the complete medical picture they needed. That is Shams explaining a very specific, very plausible reason why a deal that seemed dead in July suddenly became possible in August. Not a change in basketball interest, but a change in medical certainty, which is exactly the kind of nuanced behind-the-scenes detail that separates real reporting from guesswork. And 12 minutes later, as I promised, Adam Schefter posted from his personal account, and the football parallel he drew is genuinely sharp. Just saw the Sabonis news. This is exactly like a team waiting on a post-surgery recheck before finalizing a trade for an injured player. We see this constantly in the NFL around ACL and meniscus recoveries. Medical clearance timing drives trade timing more than fans realize. Nice work by Shams tracking this. Read that back. Schefter drawing a direct, technically accurate parallel to how post-surgical medical clearances specifically govern trade timing in his own sport. That specific, informed cross-sport comparison is exactly why this story trended across both NBA and NFL circles within the hour, rather than staying contained to basketball media. Now, the whiplash, because I already know your brain is doing exactly what mine did. Sam Amick said on the record 5 weeks ago that Sabonis was probably staying in Sacramento. That was the accepted story. How does that flip completely in 5 weeks? And here's the honest answer, and it requires understanding that Amick's July reporting was accurate in describing the situation as it stood at that exact moment. Genuinely stalled, genuinely trending towards staying put. Specifically because the medical uncertainty made any acquiring team hesitant to finalize real compensation for a player whose knee status remained genuinely unresolved. That was a real, accurate assessment of a real obstacle. It simply wasn't a permanent one. The moment that specific medical obstacle cleared, the underlying basketball interest, which had never actually gone away, resurfaced immediately, because the only thing that had actually changed between the deadline in February and now was the health clearance, not the fundamental appeal of Sabonis' talent. Stay with me. Because once you understand exactly why Sabonis' specific game complements Luka Doncic in a way genuinely different from anything else added this summer, this stops looking like a reversal and starts looking like the single most obvious fit hiding behind a medical technicality the entire time. 3 reasons Shams was this confident. Reason 3 is where the reveal lands. Reason number 1. Domantas Sabonis, when healthy, is one of the single best passing big men in the history of the sport. A 3-time All-Star whose entire game is built around elite vision, elbow playmaking, and constant dribble handoff actions that generate advantages for everyone around him. That is a fundamentally different archetype than anything the Lakers have added this summer. This is not another rim protector, not another spot-up shooter, not another isolation scorer. This is a genuine offensive hub who can operate the offense from the high post while Luka Doncic rests, or more excitingly, run a 2-man game with Luka that very few defenses in the league have any real answer for. 2 elite, high IQ playmakers operating simultaneously, reading the same defensive rotations from different spots on the floor. Reason number 2, and this is the tactical detail specific to why JJ Redick's coaching background makes this particular fit so compelling. Redick has spoken extensively across years of podcast content before becoming a head coach about the specific value of connector playmaking bigs, players whose passing vision unlocks cutting and relocation shooting for everyone else on the floor. Sabonis, with his elite handoff instincts and constant flow offense sensibility, is precisely the archetype Redick has publicly praised as the ideal frontcourt partner for a ball-dominant, gravity-heavy perimeter star, which is exactly what Luka represents. This isn't a generic big man addition. This is Redick's specific, previously articulated basketball philosophy finally getting the exact personnel to execute it. And before I get to reason 3, and because reason 3 is the specific medical reasoning Shams provided, talk to me in the comments. Lakers fans, real question, does the recent meniscus surgery and limited 19-game season last year worry you enough to overshadow how genuinely special his playmaking skill set is? Or do you trust the medical clearance timeline Shams described? I think the fanbase is going to have real split opinions on how much to trust the health situation, and I want to read the argument. Go. Reason number 3, the reasoning. Ready? Sacramento's own medical staff only fully cleared him for a return to full basketball activity in the last 2 weeks. Read that back. This is an extremely specific, verifiable medical timeline detail. Not a vague, he's healthy now, but a precise window tied directly to the acquiring team's own confirmed clearance process. This is exactly the kind of information that only comes from someone who has spoken with people who had actual access to Sabonis' medical file, or who were briefed on the exact clearance timeline by team medical staff. That specific level of granularity, a 2-week window, not a general summer time frame, is the tell that separates a report built on real medical documentation from one built on speculation about he seems healthy again. Now the skeptic, Stephen A. Smith predictably pushed back hard. Sam Amick told us this man was probably staying, and now, 5 weeks later, he's a Laker. And you're taking on $45 million for a guy who just had knee surgery, who played 19 games last season, who's 30 years old, on a roster that already added De'Aaron Fox and other pieces. At some point, the injury math catches up with you, Los Angeles. And listen, Stephen A. His concern about stacking multiple significant, recently injured additions onto one roster is genuinely worth taking seriously. Multiple players with recent medical histories compounds real risk across an entire season, but here's the counter. Sabonis' specific injury, a meniscus repair, is a genuinely different, generally more predictable recovery than the more severe injuries other additions this summer have dealt with. And meniscus surgeries in NBA big men have an extensive track record of full, reliable recovery when properly managed. Pelinka's front office, according to Shams' reporting, specifically waited for medical confirmation rather than rushing the acquisition purely on name value, which tells you this was a calculated, patient decision rather than a reckless one. Stephen A. is grouping every recent injury together as equally risky. The medical reality treats them very differently. Here's the part of this story with real irony. Domantas Sabonis has spent his entire career being described as one of the league's most versatile offensive weapons, who somehow never quite got to play alongside a perimeter creator elite enough to fully punish defenses for the exact reads his passing generates. In Sacramento, that role belonged for a period to De'Aaron Fox, until Fox himself was traded away earlier this offseason in a completely separate deal. Now Sabonis walks into a situation with an even more gravitational offensive engine in Luka Doncic, finally getting the kind of perimeter partner his specific skill set was always begging for. But I owe you the honest risk. A 30-year-old center coming off knee surgery, even with a positive clearance timeline, still carries genuine real uncertainty about his explosiveness and defensive mobility going forward, and any team committing this level of money to that specific medical profile is accepting real ongoing risk that a clean bill of health today doesn't fully eliminate. So let me bring it home. Domantas Sabonis to the Lakers matters because his elite playmaking specifically complements rather than duplicates Luka Doncic's own creation, because Redick's previously stated coaching philosophy is precisely suited to maximize this exact archetype, and because Shams' specific 2-week medical clearance timeline is the kind of granular detail that confirms real sourcing from inside the actual medical process. Adam Schefter's technically accurate cross-sport comparison is the receipt of just how significant this specific timing detail really is. Now here's what I'm watching next, and this is the next video, so hit subscribe. If Sabonis lands in Los Angeles, the very next question is exactly what draft compensation Sacramento received, and how JJ Redick structures a frontcourt rotation that now features multiple significant big man additions from this same offseason. I've got a read on it that will surprise you. For now, comments, likes, subscribe. Lakers fans, everybody thought he was staying. The knee had other plans. Wild summer.